I think a key to all philanthropy is how you unlock the much larger sectors, the government sector and the business sector. And say you have a goal like reducing the number of children under 5 who die every year. The direct philanthropy in terms of inventing vaccines, buying vaccines, getting them delivered, isn't going to really make a big dent in that problem. So unless you get the brilliant minds at the pharmaceutical companies engaged in the invention, unless you get the government aid budgets from the generous rich countries engaged, and unless you get the people on the ground, which in many cases you are working with the developing country and how they train and manage all these primary healthcare workers, unless you're deeply engaged with that, you're probably not going to have a big impact. There are pieces like some of the research, like the malaria vaccine piece, where philanthropy actually can fund a very substantial, even the majority of that. But then when you get into delivery mode, the $130 billion a year of government aid budgets focused on these poor countries, making sure that gets used the right way, that it's not being cut because of budget problems, and that you're drawing in the taxing power private sector that's developing these countries. That's part of how you're going to win and get that number to drop in half in the next 15 years.
And corruption, of course, being such a big part of it. How do you make sure, and you guys are at the forefront of this, that the money you put into they're just propping up bad governments?
It depends on how measurable the sector you're operating in is. And so in the case of health, figuring out how many people survived by getting HIV drugs is pretty straightforward. Figuring out your vaccine coverage that reduces measles deaths down from what was over 1 million a year now down to 300,000 a year, that is one of the most straightforward things. And because you buy the vaccines and ship them into the country, you're controlling that procurement piece. You have a little bit of training money and a little bit of labor money that maybe a few % of that can go astray. But it's not like building a road, when you send money to the government and then maybe no road shows up, or you're paying twice as much for it. The health and agricultural sectors, which are very critical to the poorest, getting the health right, the nutrition right, those things actually, you can operate in a mode where you're, at most, corruption would be about 5%. And if you can't withstand a few percent, like somebody who didn't come to the training session, you're an idealist who doesn't belong in the game of helping poor countries.